Hello, my name is Kenny Cafiro, and today I will be discussing Parkinson's disease. A brief overview. Parkinson's disease is the second most common neurodegenerative disease behind Alzheimer's, affecting more than 10 million people worldwide, with more than 60,000 people in the U.S. alone being diagnosed each year with PD. It is imperative that the science community understands this disease in order to find treatment and cures. Neurodegeneration is the progressive damage or loss of neurons, which leads to a difficulty for the brain and body to function normally. These diseases are incurable and often difficult to treat. As the damage and loss of neurons gets worse, patients' symptoms worsen. Causes. PD's etiology, which means cause, is still not certain, but science has come a long way in learning about the cause for these diseases. In the past, PD was considered a result of environmental factors because of the lack of family history, but various genes have been identified as contributing to PD, which has made PD a multifactorial disease. Multifactorial diseases are complex to treat and study because of the difficulty in understanding the true causes, which may be a reason why PD still has no cures and is difficult to treat. It is understood that PD is a result of damage and loss of neurons in the substantia nigra portion of the brain. These neurons normally produce dopamine that sends signals to the portion of the brain responsible for cognition and motor function, called the striatum part of the brain. However, with the damage to these neurons, there's a lack of dopamine in PD's patients' brains, which weakens the brain's functionality and its ability to tell the body what to do. Most cases of PD are sporadic, meaning there is no sign of history of the disease in the family. Just 15% of cases are familial, meaning there is a history of the disease in the family, and just 30% of those familial cases are a cause of one genetic alteration, meaning they are monogenetic. The modes of inheritance of PD can vary depending on the gene that is mutated. For some genes like LRKK2 and SNCA, the mode of inheritance is autosomal dominant. However, other genes like PARK7, PINK1, and PRKN1 result in autosomal recessive inheritance. Genetic alterations may cause a larger risk of developing PD, but with PD being a complex disorder and multifactorial, the inheritance pattern is usually uncertain, making certain analysis of the inheritance difficult. Since it is multifactorial, environmental factors also play a role in the risk of developing PD. Studies show that exposure to pesticides and other toxins increase risk of PD. While most of these pesticides are now outlawed, they remain in the ecosystem, and they can continue to stay in the food chain and have exposure to people and increase the risk of developing PD. There is also research that shows certain diets can contribute to the risk of developing PD. For an example, certain levels of saturated and polyunsaturated fat in people's diet have shown that they affect the risk of developing PD. Now we'll discuss the symptoms that are associated with PD. Symptoms of PD can be characterized as both motor and non-motor, and they both make it very difficult to live with this disease. Motor symptoms are usually the first symptoms seen in patients and start with tremors on one hand or one side of the body and include other symptoms as the disease progresses, like slow movement, rigid muscles, or difficulty balance or speaking. Pictured here, you see a person with Parkinson's disease struggling to eat his food. Because of the tremors in his hand, he cannot keep the food on his spoon. Additionally, it is difficult for PD patients to eat because of the flap in their throat that makes them not have food go down their airways and causing them to choke on small bits of food. However, there's also a growing concern for the non-motor symptoms like mood disorders, dementia, hallucinations, and sleeping disorders. These symptoms have an effect on both patients and their loved ones. In conclusion, PD affects millions of people and is extremely difficult to live with. It is currently incurable and treatments aren't that effective, especially after a certain period of time taking these treatments. It can make it extremely difficult for people and their loved ones to live with because they cannot complete simple life tasks that most normal people can complete easily. It is very important that the science community continues to learn more about this disease and find better treatments and a possible cure to reduce the amount of people affected by this terrible disease.